This is Perspective Shift, Episode 8, Distress, De-Stress, and I'm your host, April Rodriguez. I hope everyone has had a great week. April is National Stress Awareness Month, which honestly I didn't know until I started researching this week's topic. But finding that out really made me feel like I'm on the right track. I've always been a fidgety person. I never could sit still. In fact, as a child, I wasn't welcome on my grandpa's lap because I moved way too much. I always just figured I had a lot of energy. The older I get and the more I learn, not only about myself but the world, the more I'm starting to believe that I may just be too used to high-stress situations. It's like I've become accustomed to feeling tense and need to seek out tension or else I'm bored. My brain is going a million miles a minute, thinking, planning, organizing, doing mental reps. I didn't really think it was a bad thing. It seems at times that's what the goal is. We compare lives to see who has it worse off or who's more stressed in a twisted game of comparison. If you're the most stressed, you win, and everyone kind of lets you just be. Let's talk a little bit about stress and the physiological effect it has on our bodies. Stress isn't necessarily a bad guy or a villain, but just like anything else, too much can wreak havoc. When we find ourselves in a situation that is mentally or physically terrifying, or that makes us fear for our current safety and comfortability, a type of alert system will be sent out to the body so the fight or flight hormones can be released. These hormones set off a chain reaction in the body, including sweating, an increase in blood pressure, heart rate, and energy levels, along with pupil dilation. But it also diverts energy away from your immune and digestive systems. But this allows us to be properly alert to handle the situation before us. Then, typically, when the situation is over, whether through staying and fighting or leaving the situation, things go back to normal. Hans Selye, an endocrinologist who founded stress theory, states that there are two types of stress: eustress, which is positive stress, and distress, which is negative stress. Eustress, or positive stress, is more like a challenge you're fired up to face. It invigorates you. It's something you've prepared for and are confident about taking on. And once the challenge is over, the stress is released and things go back to normal. Distress, or negative stress, is more like a threat, something that makes you fear for your safety. If you're not able to cope or adapt to that threat, then the stress stays bottled up without a proper release. This consistent release of stress hormones causes a constant disruption of important functions like your heart, immune system, and digestive system, causing all sorts of different ailments. I believe being attracted to high-stress situations can be genetic, or learned, or both. I believe generations of family have quirks, mannerisms, and habits that are unique to their bloodline, and sometimes there are hurts and pains that get passed on. Other times, though, I believe that attraction to high-stress situations is a learned behavior. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 16, and my dad was 17. Her parents definitely weren't happy about it, so she was forced to leave her home. It was only a few months after I was born before my dad decided to leave and start a family with a woman who, even after she had my dad, continued to harass my single teen mom. My mom worked 3 jobs and had me eat at my grandpa's just so we could keep our heads above water. So it's easy to say that my mom lived her young life in a high-stress environment 24/7. And me and my young developing mind were right there beside her. I believe there are a lot of people in my generation that can relate to this. It's been a slow build-up to our current situation. In the early 1900s, extended families worked together as a unit. Families lived and worked together, similar to the way they do in other countries or even in the movie Coco. Once the Industrial Revolution came about, jobs were no longer at home, but out in the cities and places away from the home. Women took on the role of homemaker, while the man was the breadwinner. Because of the flux in the economy, more and more families were able to break away from their extended family and get their own home. But being isolated to your nuclear family can be lonely, and it wasn't easy to maintain, especially with inflation and the economic decline. The baby boomer generation expected that life would stay exactly the same and that their kids, at the very least, would have the same opportunities they did. But they didn't, and many young males felt the pressures of having to go to wars that they didn't care about and wanted no part of, and of having to support a family with little job opportunities and increasing house prices. So instead, they abandon their responsibilities to relieve the overwhelming pressures. I believe that we're in the middle of a strong feminist movement now because so many of us grew up with single moms who took on a big weight of responsibility for both parents. I believe that a lot of the suicides in our youth are caused by a feeling of loneliness created not only by the breaking apart of families, both immediate and extended, but also by separating us into our own individual cars and then separating us further through our phones and social media profiles, isolating us even further. It's no wonder we're so stressed out and lonely. It's easy to become used to high-stress situations, especially if you grew up in one. We're creatures of habit, and we like what feels comfortable and familiar to us, even if it's not the healthiest thing for us. So, if we grew up in that environment, we're going to continue to seek environments like this because it's what we're used to. Much like drugs and even worse, sugars, stress can be addictive. We talked about the fact that hormones are released when you find yourself in a stressful situation. One of these hormones is dopamine, which is linked to the reward center in our brain and considered a feel-good hormone. If you tend to have an addictive personality, the release of hormones can be like a rush. So you seek out situations that will continue to give you that rush. But like with drugs, your body gets used to the amount of stress, and soon you begin to need larger amounts of stress to satisfy your needs. Now, there's nothing wrong with being in high-stress situations as long as they're more of a challenge, like setting a goal for yourself and working to achieve it, as opposed to stress that makes you feel like you're in fear for your safety, like abusive relationships. The reason I brought this up this week was because I was scrolling through my Instagram and found that there were certain people's posts that would make me feel upset. I found myself actively seeking them out, almost as if I was trying to hurt myself. I decided it was time to go through and mute the profiles that were causing me distress, and for the next few days I would go on Instagram and feel so bored. I wanted to submerge myself in the drama, even though I knew it wasn't good for me. The drama wasn't there and I actually missed it. Not to say that I should have missed it or that it was a healthy thing in my life, but I actually missed it. That's when it hit me that something wasn't right. Was I addicted to this drama? It forced me to stop and think about other areas in my life where I found myself drawn to the stress. I realized that most of my life has been spent running straight into burning buildings trying to help and then wondering why I was always getting burned. A few years ago, I thought I was doing a phenomenal job of maintaining my stress and taking care of myself properly. I do yoga several times a week, hike regularly, and even bike ride. There was even a time when I was working 2 jobs from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. while maintaining a house, meal prepping, and riding my bike to work almost every day. I thought I was as healthy as I could be. Now I look back and see that I was overdoing it still. I was filling up all my time to avoid having to really think about what I had pushed away deep down inside. Of course, this is still something I work at because we're not perfect and real change takes time, practice, and patience. All of the activities I was doing, yoga, hiking, bike riding, eating healthy, were all great, but I was stressing over it constantly, making sure everything fit into my little life perfectly. I had to make sure I worked out because I felt fat if I didn't, or I felt incomplete or like a loser. This, of course, isn't healthy. The way to reduce stress in our lives isn't a big secret. We already know what we should be doing, but rewiring our brains isn't easy. It can be done, but it requires your attention and focus to get there. Talking to a mental health specialist is a great way to try to work on your stress, but if you don't have a therapist, journaling and talking with a trusted, compassionate friend or loved one can be helpful, along with meditation to help yourself adjust to a life where you don't always have to be working to be productive. This week in astrology, there's another busy week with a lot of transitions going on. First, Mercury enters Aries on Wednesday, April 17th at 2:01 a.m. In mythology, Mercury is the messenger to the gods and is the god of commerce, communication, boundaries, luck, and financial gain, among other things. In mythology, Mercury is the messenger to the gods and is the god of commerce, communication, boundaries, luck, and financial gain, among other things. Mercury is like a young, curious child that likes to take things apart so he can put them back together. Since Aries embodies the ultimate young, excitable energy, we might find that our communications and decision-making are quick and to the point. Aries doesn't like to wait around. They want to move forward, so they'll make an immediate decision. This isn't a time for mulling around or thinking or, second guessing. This is a time for starting new projects because you'll have all the enthusiasm and gusto to get it started. And then later in the week on Friday, April 19th, there will be a full moon in Libra. Full moons are a time when our emotions and instincts are at their peak, and we find it easier to release what's no longer serving us. This month we find that again we have a full moon in Libra. This repeat full moon is giving us a second chance to release habits and behaviors in our relationships that are no longer serving us, that aren't helping us work towards our goals. There may also be a major decision that you've been waiting on making, and this repeat full moon in Libra indicates that all the information necessary to make your decision hasn't been released yet. So be patient and be willing to let go of your expectations, and then you'll get all the information you need to make this decision. The next day on Saturday, we have the sun moving into Taurus, which I'm so excited for because I'm a Taurus and that means my birthday is coming up. Woo! With the sun in Taurus, you might find yourself a little more set in your ways, a little more willing to defend what's important to you. Security and safety are ultimately important during Taurus season. It's a time for plopping down and starting to build. The Taurus hard work, determination, and loyalty will help you build a proper foundation for projects that you started during Aries season. You'll also find that you're drawn to all things comfortable, so take some time to enjoy the good things in life. In moderation, of course. And then later that same day, Venus will move into Aries. So not only is Mercury in Aries, but Venus will also be in Aries, giving us the ability to start fresh in all things love. This transit will have us feeling bold and impatient. It's a great time to use charm to show your affection to a loved one. And if you've been feeling stagnant in your love life, whether you're single or in a relationship, Aries will bring in the new life needed to mix things up and get your love life stirring again. You might also find yourself feeling charged and attractive to activity and energy. Now that we're in spring, it's a good time to get out and enjoy that wild Venus and Aries energy. This week in tarot, I picked the Eight of Wands reversed and the Six of Pentacles. The Eight of Wands upright shows that we've overcome some obstacles and are now ready to get back on track with our plans. Now that the obstacles have subsided, there's even more energy to attack your goals, so they can be reached even quicker than before. It encourages you to stay focused and not let any distractions derail you. But when it's reversed, it indicates that there are still some delays to the completion of your goal. This can be poor planning, a personal resistance to change, or an unexpected occurrence that halts your plans. Ultimately, though, the reversed Eight of Wands shows that we may continue to face delays, but don't be frustrated. Go with the flow and let things unravel naturally. The Six of Pentacles reminds us of the fine balance between giving and receiving. There are times when we are the wealthy ones, able to give and help others. But just as easily, we can be on the receiving end. This card reminds us that we should always keep our ego in check, especially when it comes to financial status. We shouldn't be too proud to take when we're in need, and we should always try to help those who are currently less fortunate than us, because we never know if that could be us. When I see the card combination, I get the feeling there's an important message being missed here. It has to do with the balance of success. You may be feeling that because you're not financially wealthy that you are somehow inferior, and this thought is preventing you from moving forward in your projects. Once you begin to understand that the balance could easily tip in your favor at any moment, you'll start to feel more confident in your actions and what you're pursuing. This week seems to have a lot of positive forward-moving energy. If you're feeling blocked or stagnant, this is a great week for letting go and going with the flow that your life is trying to take you on. Before I leave, just a reminder, I do spiritual guidance readings for $25. We can meet in person, talk over Google Duo, or I can write up a report for you depending on which you prefer. I also do stick and poke tattoos. Just take a look at my profile at Modest Betty, MODESTBETTY, to see my flash sheet for the month. Echoed Influence has their game night this Friday, April 19th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Club. There will be a Smash Brothers tournament, a Mortal Kombat tournament, and an Injustice tournament, along with free play games. So come on, bring your family, bring your kids. It'll be a fun time. Tickets are $10 and include pizza, a snack, and a drink if you buy before Friday. And then at the end of this month, I'll be doing another tarot workshop. That's the last Sunday of the month at noon, 12 p.m. And this month's topic is crystals and candles in your tarot practice. And I'll be having my friend Brittany come out and share all of her information on candles and crystals. And she is just so informative. You're just going to love her. She has so much information to share. So if you're interested in participating, send a DM to reserve your spot. It's $10. Well, that's it for me this week. I hope everyone has a great week. And remember, if you ever need me, just send me a DM. And I'll see you next time. Bye.